Every time you say my name, you just hear a whip crack.
I could edit that in.
He could.
That could probably happen.
Danny Dungeon Master or Daddy Dungeon Master?
Daddy Dungeon Master.
They won't know which one. Trick answer. It's both.
All right. Hey there. Welcome back. This is the Dadless podcast. I am the elder Dadless. Today I am joined by one of my most noblest of comrades, Jose the Dad.
Greetings.
And then also, for the first time on the panel, we have talked about him before, and we actually have him now sitting with us today. He is the Daddy Dungeon Master. He is Danny.
Hey there.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going all right.
I thought that, not because it's a clever moniker, but because Danny is with us today on the panel, we can run through our usual gamut of questions, but also we can focus on some D&D because Danny really is a dungeon master. And D&D is something that we've talked about in the past outside of the podcast, and so it would be cool to run just some normal D&D related questions past you while we have you. I guess we can start off where we started off in our last episode. The last time, if you joined us, we talked about
the Fatal Four-Way.
No, it is a clever name for a porn, but last time we basically just ran a panel of questions to go along with everyone that was here. Movies, anime, TV, books. Being that you're pretty astute yourself, currently, what are you into right now? Books, movie, TV. We can start anywhere.
Well, books-wise, I've been reading a series called Dragon Watch.
Hey, who put him onto that?
Jose the Dad is the one who got me into that. Never would have found it without him.
Are you guys following along with the series about the same pace, or because you said it's an ongoing series, right? Or a continuation?
It was.
It's just finished. They just released the final copy like 2 weeks ago, so I finished it, and then now Daniel just has to finish the last one here.
That's always a pain in the ass. So, but the series is complete now?
Yes, just completed.
I feel like that really is always kind of like that nagging thing because, well, kind of in comparison, but books aside, right now I'm watching Hunter x Hunter, and this is a show that, I mean, to put in perspective, came out in 2011, and I remember when my friends started watching it. And we were kind of in the same pace. This is when Netflix was really early on, and it's like Conception.
I think Inception.
Okay.
Back when it was in DVDs too.
Yeah, when it was like DVD to rent.
Conception also,
like the Immaculate Conception. But we were along the same pace with the different series that were out. And I remember when Hunter x Hunter came out, and my friends were like, "Hey, jump on the show. It's called Hunter x Hunter. It's pretty cool." And I just, something about it never grasped me at like, hey, I got to watch this. And so, like, I've been telling Vic, and like I told these guys the other day when we recorded, I'm like, I'm 11 years late to a series that by all accounts is done, but also it's finished with an open ending. And so I'm basically like a little more than halfway done. And I know what the ending is already from like prior curiosity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, motherfucker. Like, because now I'm catching all like the fine details in between the ending. And I feel like those are a lot more fulfilling than like what I know now. And I feel like once I get to the ending, it'll be like this even bigger payoff. Because I'm like, wow, everything ties together like so perfectly. Are you aware of what the ending is currently to the series? Like in that aspect, or
to the book, or to
the series as a whole. Anyway,
I do not.
So you're just
I for the most part avoided spoilers, which helps because the only other person I've met who reads it is Jose.
It's not like a huge series like like Harry Potter or anything like that. And typically huge book series where like everyone's reading the books have some kind of show or movie to push along its popularity in the actual books. So it doesn't have anything like that yet, but I've been telling them like, hey, read this shit so I have someone to discuss it with because I don't have anyone to discuss this with.
I feel like that's one of the hardest things when you have like your certain niche of what you're into is finding people that you can talk about it with. I mean, that's the same thing along the lines of being a fan of, well, like nerd fandom as a general like umbrella thing. It's like, hey, do you like, like X, Y, and Z?
It's like when you get so excited and you buy like merch for something you like and then you wear it, but then like no one comments on it. But then you're like, do I want someone to comment on it? Like, am I ready to sit here and have a conversation about this with a complete stranger?
It's funny like that you say that.
I find them shallow and pedantic.
I was like, yes, so do I. So other than that current series, is there, because you read quite a bit.
I just enjoy reading.
Reading a lot. Yeah. Like you're always constantly reading. Is there anything else that you're reading right now?
I have been trying to catch up on the Witcher books. I'm still on the first one.
I told this guy.
I would like to be more caught up, but books are expensive.
I told this guy.
They are.
You gotta hop on Audible.
It doesn't feel the same to me because like I like to imagine a character's voice and like all that in my own head. So if I hear someone reading it to me, it's a matter of like, well, that's not how I thought the character would sound. Which no character is going to sound the same to everybody, but it just helps my immersion.
In that aspect, like in playing, because you've played The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
So in that aspect...
Several times.
I know, the same, right? In that aspect, when you read just from The Witcher, do you hear Geralt from the game?
Kind of, yeah. That's one of those series where like I probably could do an audiobook if they sounded the same. But also like it's more a mixture of Geralt from the game and from the Netflix series now.
Lay it on him, Elder Dad. Tell him about the audiobook, Geralt.
Look at this fuckface. No. I was telling these guys a lot of the voice acting for the Witcher series on Audible. And that is Audible. Go ahead and use promo code Dadless 123 and you'll get
nothing yet unless you're listening, Audible.
Hey, Audible. Hi.
Hey, I'm pushing you guys every episode now. Hit me up.
The voice acting, the cast that they use for the Witcher series is just so radically different. And like, I'm not going to say an improvement, but I enjoy the voice acting for that series so much that making the joke to these guys, I would much rather the voice of Geralt from Audible with like Henry Cavill's like just figure, like the
like him lip syncing with that voice,
like the visage of Geralt, but like that voice. It's, I don't know if you would say like a Scottish or an Irish drawl. It's just like gruff and shit.
Yeah,
it's so dope, dude.
They need to be like Milli Vanilli.
Yeah, lip syncing.
Thank you.
Just attractive black guys. I think they're English.
I wonder how many people will understand that reference.
I hope.
I didn't.
I hope some do. Milli Vanilli. They're the group from the 90s.
You know, I don't even care. They were good, all right? Who cares if they didn't sing every single time they were on stage? If at all. Who cares? It sounds nice.
It was the 90s. There was plenty of them. It's funny that, like, in talking about D&D the way that we have been recently, one thing that I've wanted to get into, I really want to get into the actual, like, the canon for like Warcraft or for D&D, like the books.
Oh, like the book series?
The book series, because I hear that it's one of those series that, along with like Star Wars, I hear the books, well, because I've read a few book series, but they're based on like the Clone Wars and shit. It was like back when like the book fairs and like the Scholastic had them. But I hear that the canon that they have and like the world that they build through the books is like really well done. But I mean also how much of that is truth and how much of it is like...
Yeah, I've heard of that too.
Fans of the books.
I haven't read any of the books myself, but from what I've seen in terms of their reviews and other people who have read them, is they give a lot more detail to areas or like events that you hear about maybe like through your dungeon master or that they might have read about. But it gives them the detail so that when you're actually playing and you hear about these events, or you're experiencing these events, you're a lot more immersed. Yeah. Because you can imagine like, oh, well, in the book, that happened at this point. So I know when they're talking about this, that is what is going on.
It really enhances it for the dungeon master because like when you're playing and you're a character, you're kind of like a clueless, like game player in a video game. But when you're the dungeon master, you have to be like the programmer that puts everything in its place.
Yeah.
And so like Danny will tell us, he'll be like, this happened here. This is what you have going on. I'm just like, you're going to chop its head off. And he's like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, I roll to chop its head off. He's like, I mean, technically you can, but like, I have to tell you, like, it would be suicide. I'm like,
fuck it.
I roll to chop his hand off.
We actually just played last night, and there was this part where there was like 30, 40 enemies, and it was supposed to be like a stealth encounter.
Just a bunch of bitches, dude. It's like fucking
Zubats and Ratatats.
That's what it was, man. That's what it was. It's goblins and or kobolds and what are they called? Cultists. I don't know. They were a bunch of bitches. I could have killed them all.
For a bit of like insight, if you don't play, kobolds are very weak or enemies. They have like less than 10 HP a piece.
It's those level 3 wormholes.
Yeah, basically. They're the level 3 wormhole of D&D.
They're the Bidoof.
Yeah.
They're Bidoof. They're zigzagoons.
Except they're not the HM slaves.
Yeah,
exactly.
But even with how weak they are, 40 of them at the same time is an insane number to go across.
Not when you're a level 40 Charizard.
I was trying to... You're more of like a level 7 Charmander at this point.
Dog, dude.
Not with that armor class.
You don't quite have Ember yet.
I have a level... I have 18 armor class.
You're still susceptible to poison damage.
No one's gonna fucking touch me.
You're Pidgey. I only have sand attack. Fuck.
But
I'm like, no, it's like okay, level 7, but it's like being a level 7 Metapod, and you use Harden like 40 times.
Ash's Metapod. He's like,
yeah.
Harden, 100%. He's like, I can't. I can't anymore.
Episode we did. I sat there as kids and watched the whole last episode between two Metapods.
We're like, and
then
this is my shit.
We're like, dude, this is getting so good, Mom. Where the fucking pizza pockets at? So did you say?
As I was saying, so there's like 40 of these enemies, and he's trying to just go in there and start fighting like crazy. And I'm using NPCs to just be like, maybe that's not the best idea. And he's just like, I guess if you want me to play it that way.
Because yeah, like as a dungeon master, you're like bringing NPCs to life. So you're like like in a video game, all the NPCs you run into, the dungeon master has to do them all. So you got Danny here with hella different voices. A1, Chef's Kiss. It surprised me because I'm usually the one that likes to do like voices and impressions, but it must run in the family because
it's a 5-star review on Yelp for Dungeon Master.
Yeah, exactly. If you need a dungeon master and you want someone who makes it fun, hit up Danny Dungeon Master, Daddy Dungeon Master. I don't know which one it is, but
with the pace that we have right now from books, let's just move into the D&D then. What in the first place even got you into D&D? Like even to get around to playing the game.
Well, the first time I played, it wasn't like official D&D. I played in high school with a group of friends that I used to program with. We would get together and we'd do some programming, and afterwards we'd start playing. And at the time, I wasn't the dungeon master. I was just a player. But like as a player, I found it very fun. And as I got older, I was just like, well, maybe it'd be fun to be on the other side of the table, where I get to see, oh, well, this is everything that's going on, and I'm like, not so much in control of the world, but like
he said,
I can see.
I want to be God.
In essence, yeah. I thought it would be fun to just be like, well, these people are like playing in a world that like not so much that I control, but like that is currently under my design. I just thought it would be like fun to. I don't. The word that comes to mind is control.
Okay.
Yeah, he just likes to be God.
I mean,
I threatened to kill his horse last night.
You're like, look, get in fucking line. Or old Sucifer over there, I'm gonna fucking kill him, okay?
That's how he is, man. He's a tyrant.
I tried to make a rat bite him in the nuts.
Storytelling at its best.
It was, man. It was. Fantastic.
I mean, in terms of, were you playing D&D just out the gate, or were you involved in other tabletop games before that?
I've never actually played another tabletop game. I've seen things for them, like, for example, like Pathfinder or Warhammer. Mm-hmm. But once I started getting into D&D, it was already an expensive hobby. And I've seen how much people spend on games like Warhammer.
Yeah.
So I've kind of not allowed myself to. Because if I spend money on that, well, I don't have rent money.
See, We had I was in the after school program for years because my parents didn't like me, and
Hey, it's funny. I always tell the after school program kids, I'm like, they get a second snack. I want some.
well, I had friends that were in the after school program, and they were like, "Dude, it's cool. We fucking play games and shit." And I was like, "I want to do this."
I attended one after school program thing because my friends told me, "Oh, it's gonna be Pizza Friday." And I was like, that sounds amazing. I love pizza. So I went, and the pizza was already cold when I got there.
It was tuna sandwich
And
Friday.
there was like nothing to do. Like I had like two friends there. We were talking for a bit, but like I was a child with ADHD. I did not want to sit there. I wanted to run around. And every time I'd get up, they'd be like, "No, sit down. Play your board games."
For us, anyway, it was like Friday or Thursday. One of those though was the game club, and I was like, okay, cool, like that sounds tight. At the time, it was Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic the Gathering, also a game that I've always had the curiosity to play, but in finding friends who like had experience playing, I have no fucking idea. It's too highbrow.
Too much, yeah.
Too highbrow of a game for me. I
actually heard a story about like at one Magic the Gathering tournament, someone played a card where it was basically like you throw it up and whatever it lands on. And so he took his card, cut it up into a bunch of pieces, and tossed it up and just board wiped the entire game.
I've heard of this.
You can do that? You can cut your card?
Apparently. It was accepted as a ruling.
So,
because it didn't say you couldn't cut it up. It just said whatever it lands on.
But it's just, I had no fucking idea. I knew I wasn't gonna end up playing Magic. Even now, I'm just dog shit.
You look at it like I look at One Piece. There's too much going on there. I'm not jumping in at this point.
Like, I could probably do D&D. You could jump in at any time. If people were born again Christians, you can get into One Piece.
Born again weeb.
I don't know. It always seemed like, aside from Magic, because it's been around for so long, but it was the same as like D&D. But in that after school program, people were like, "Well, we're playing Robotech right now." And I was like, "What the fuck is Robotech?" And they were like, "Well, check these out. These are little mechs, and this is the game." And walking me through what was going on, and I was like, "Oh, that looks cool." But because of the figurines,
yeah,
that's what was cool to me. D&D itself, like I watched the show when I was a kid, and I've known what D&D is for a long time. Like my dad was of that era, but it never seemed like an actual thing to me until we did get older, like we in high school. And shout out to my boy Dilly Dan, Thieves Magic. Follow him. He's a D&D guy. He's a Magic guy as well. And he was someone who introduced that to me a little bit more as well. Still, even at that time, like we were skaters and shit, and we were more so busy with running around doing hood rat shit. But it's like now that I'm older, I'm like, I really like this stuff. And like D&D is probably the one thing that I could probably get into like. Probably a lot easier than if you told me to go and pick up a Yu-Gi-Oh fucking deck and try to learn version whatever the fuck it's on right now.
No, it's a lot harder now than it was when we were kids.
Oh yeah, dude. Fucking there was the last time I tried to get into it, there was like synchrons and shit, and I was like, I'm alright.
That's exactly where I said it.
I don't even know what the fuck this is. I was like, "Ayo, I have a change of heart," and they were like, "It's illegal." I was like, "Excuse me?" And they're like, "Yeah." They're like, a lot of that old shit. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, a lot of that old shit just
it's too
powerful for
it's not old shit. It's
the way
wonderful.
the game runs now.
It's wonderful.
Bring back Pot of Greed.
Monster Reborn is like only one copy or something, and I'm like, bruh.
Yeah, there's like
that was my hack back in the day.
Yeah,
but circling back, D&D. Yeah, it never seemed like an actual thing until now that I'm fucking old and I'm like, I can look into these things more. So you said it was just right out the gate, it was D&D. I mean, have you steadily, like, since high school just been, like, still hanging in with D&D? Because for that while, you were, like, a big Yu-Gi-Oh guy as well.
Yeah, well, it was actually with my Yu-Gi-Oh friends that I started picking it back up. Because, like, I only played that one campaign, and then I started trying to, at other times, throughout college. But it just got difficult, and then my Yu-Gi-Oh friends were just like, well, we should play Dungeons & Dragons, too. Why not?
What is an example of, like, a recent campaign that you've had?
Well, right now we're doing like one of the official campaigns or adventures for Dungeons & Dragons called the, what's it called? Wrath of the Dragon Queen or something like that. We're still at the beginning of it, which is why he's only level 7 Charmander.
I had no idea that, like, I thought Dungeons & Dragons, like, in my head was just like, oh, a dungeon master just, like, whatever their imagination decides like happens. But I didn't know that there were actual like books and guidelines and like a whole established set of like rules and like this is the armor. Like I'm thinking the dungeon master just has to come up with all this stuff, but there's like books that tell you what to do. And I thought Dungeons and Dragons was like the type of game, like, oh, it's a card game or it's that. I didn't know that was the actual like brand. So it's been cool actually digging in. A lot of things you don't get into or like you don't understand until you actually, you know, just start learning by doing. And this has been pretty crazy learning about Dungeons and Dragons.
You know, when you start becoming a dungeon master, you realize there's a lot of numbers and tables.
That's something that threw me off a long time ago when I found out about Dungeons and Dragons. And especially like thinking back to like the cartoon as a kid, because they for real were like, well, we were playing this game, and like you see them unfolding like, I guess like the books that you use, like the handbooks or fucking whatever. And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? And then like just throughout different like other different mediums like shows and whatnot that mention D&D, and they're like, well, you know, you can only do this, and you know, you have to advise the rule book and shit, and you're like, this is complicated. Like, this is super complicated, or it seems anyway. I mean, maybe not like once you actually get into the meat of like what the game is.
Well, like, I don't know if you've ever seen a dungeon master screen. On one side it's like a picture or something, or just like kind of a backdrop that players can look at, but on the other side it's literally just a table of stats and like effects, and like for example there's like a whole table on the size of a creature and how big they are, and like there's a graph. There's another one just like, oh, there's the sleep condition and there's the paralyzed condition and stuff like that. So
I call it his cheater chart.
Like as a player, it's you can imagine what's going on, but as a dungeon master you're just back there doing all sorts of math.
It's like encyclopedia. It's like Google, but for Dungeons and Dragons.
And is it like, do you find it hard going back and forth, like to balance that out as the dungeon master, and then also like overseeing, like I guess the events that are unfolding in the game, like balancing that out?
Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, not so much to like transition, but just set things up. Because
you should have seen this motherfucker. So like the first time we played, we were just like tabletop paper, imaginations. He had the books and stuff. But for the second campaign that we're doing, homie bought a fucking like whiteboard chart. Like it's like a grid. And so he draws on it and you have to like go spaces and stuff. So like homie was... You ever, like, when you go to Mexico or, like, any of these other places, like, they jump in front of your car and they give you the they give you the fucking wash.
Sick example.
And then they charge you for it. That was Danny. He's, like, jumping in front of me, like, let me clean this table up. Let me draw the next chart. And I'm like, oh, shit, look at this guy. Reminded me exactly of those dudes.
I learned cursive just so I could write them letters in cursive.
That's
20 pesos, por favor.
It's funny that you say that you learned cursive to do it. I'm like, we were just talking about it the other day. Like when we were prepping everything, I was like, I don't know how to write in cursive. I don't know how to write a fucking check, dude.
And I used to only know my signature, but like I've been relearning just so I could write them letters. Like, oh well, this is gonna happen, so they got a letter from this person.
Yeah, that's tight.
He did. He wrote all of our characters a letter, and I was like, damn, this shit's sick.
I happened to mention it in the last episode, or maybe even just outside when we were talking. I mean, within D&D, are you like, do you watch anything along with it, like YouTube? Do you follow any channels like to kind of get ideas of what you're doing?
Well, actually, I'm on D&D TikTok, so I'm always saying ideas of like, oh, players can do this, and you should watch out for them doing that, or like, here's a good idea to fuck up your players.
Fuck.
I can make these guys cry whenever I want. I choose not to.
Like just to impose just something real fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, see, when there's a god and he's power hungry like this guy over here,
like a Christian god,
you have to.
Yeah, I know.
You have to have a defense mechanism. So like, yesterday when homie tried to like have a rat bite my nutsack, I said, you do that, and I'm going to take this sword, and I'm going to slit my throat with it, and my character is dead, and you're down a player, and I'm not playing anymore. I'm not rebuilding a character. Guess who didn't get their nutsack bit by a rat?
Is that how you would get out of a game?
I mean, yeah, in essence. You can, like, make a character walk off or something, or, like, kill them, but if you just don't want to play anymore, you kill someone off.
I would. So that's my control. I'm like, hey, you want to be the god of this world? That's fine, but piss me off. I'm just gonna fucking. I'm out.
You're like, see ya.
Bye.
Do you happen to follow any like D&D related podcasts? Like, have you heard of Critical Role?
I've heard of Critical Role. I've never watched it. I've heard it's very successful.
I know of it. I followed it a little bit. When we were first talking about D&D, I was like, well, what's something that I can follow that, I mean, can help me understand the game a little more? But Critical Role in itself is just, it's, well, I think when I jumped in, it was like an ongoing campaign, like an existing campaign that you were just watching. I was like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I was like, I'm just someone watching this, you know, at this point. Along with, like, your interest in, within the tabletop series, within D&D, I mean, do you think anything else has influenced you in like, a strong interest in, like, the fantasy genre as a whole?
Well, yeah, like, I've always loved the medieval fantasy genre. So I'd probably say it's my favorite genre in terms of, like, media in general, like video games, books, movies, everything. Medieval fantasy, I probably like it. Not too long ago, I haven't read it yet because I've been reading other series, but I bought the Silmarillion for Lord of the Rings.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
And I'll probably get to it sometime after I finish those Dragon Watch books I was talking about. But, like, for example, yeah, like, I love getting into the extended lore of universes, especially medieval fantasy.
We brought it up more than once, but I feel like...
Are you talking about The Last Kingdom that no one has watched yet and I'm still upset about?
I watched up to season 2.
No, not that. It's in the queue. Trust me. If anyone has it in the queue, it's me.
All right.
Because I've been trying a lot to, like, get into just different series, different shows. You know, ever since Game of Thrones. Well, when Game of Thrones came out, HBO was still kind of something that not a lot of people had.
Yeah, it was like a more... it wasn't obscure, but it was like...
It wasn't obscure, but it was like, oh, you have HBO.
Yeah, a lot of people were like...
They're like, yeah, I do.
It was...
I know what you have HBO.
Is it many a young boy's beginning path to a dark path?
But I remember when Game of Thrones came out, and it was also one of those things that I was like, this seems real fucking cool. Probably won't ever get into it, but again, because of the aspect of HBO. But we've brought it up more than once. Like, what do you think it is that makes medieval fantasy so easy for us to ingest as, like, consumers? Like, the genre itself.
Honestly, if I had to say one thing, it's probably the adventuring aspect. Because, like, a lot of even, like, action movies have, like, you're going from this place to that place to achieve goals. But when you, like, watch or read medieval fantasy or something like that, you have these spectacular, like, landscapes being described or, like, visualized to you. And so you just get images as well as, like, these fantastic beasts like dragons and
where to find them.
No matter, like, how absurd it is, things like an action movie theoretically are to some degree possible. But, like, you're never going to see a dragon in real life. So,
hey, you shut the fuck up. Yes, I can.
The idea of, like, you're watching
heroin.
I gotta catch that dragon, man.
I stand corrected.
For me, I don't know if it's that we're not, like, so detached from the idea of, like, a medieval world. Like, it still seems not so far away, like, that it happened. I feel like there's maybe in our society, not like an American society, but as
like a global society.
As a global society, there's always...
The modern world.
There's always been... I mean, forever, it's just, you know, in Europe alone and then in coming to the United States, to North America, there's always been that influence of, you know, chivalrous knights, you know, going and saving damsels in distress and fighting off these dragons and the idea of treasure and, you know... fantastical creatures that may not be around anymore.
That's because of the great British Empire spreading their influence throughout the history of the world, and the great Roman Empire. You know, all these fuckers, they come in and then they're like, hey, look at these cool stories. And they're like, oh, that's cool, man. Hey, check out our stories. No. Your gods, your stories, your history. Nah, you're taking ours.
Like, look here, you guys have all these gods, just make them one.
Shit. That's cool. I like it. You know, hey, that one's nice. That one does this. Turn them all into one.
Hey, did you know that your God's actually our God?
They're like, hey, we have St. Peter. He's a nice guy.
But he's the same.
Hey, Peter.
Wait, he's actually here? Yeah.
No, he's there.
Yeah, he's the actual dude.
You're like, oh, well, do we have Lancelot? Yeah, that's fine.
That's cool.
No, you know what I just thought of, actually? So, like, people nowadays make fun of Scientologists because, like, their guy lived, like, 70, 60 years ago. Like, there are probably people alive today that have met him.
Yeah. Oh, there definitely is. Yeah.
How do you think people viewed, like, Christians back then when they're like, you mean Jesus? That guy that lives, like, 2 blocks down?
He's like, hey. His dad was a carpenter. So cool.
That's where, like, Family Guy makes fun, like, where Stewie time traveled and met Jesus.
Yeah, when he was watching him fucking bathe. It's just like...
If you're Christian and you're listening to this, just think, your God probably has a sense of humor. He's probably like, yeah, that's funny.
If he's a good guy, like you say he is, he probably has a sense of humor.
Baphomet would be okay with me laughing.
He would love to hear you laugh.
He revels in my joy.
He asks that you do laugh. It's funny. As far as in terms of the genre of fantasy, I think it's something that's carried on for so long. I guess reiterated by just so many different people in different forms. It's easy for us to just use that one umbrella idea and then just kind of do with it what we will. Because it is like, not everybody, air quotes, everybody likes, a good fucking fantasy story. Who doesn't? It's
always fun to see a sword fight.
It's easy. I feel like given someone with enough imagination who knows where to put periods and commas in the right places, go off and write a book, write a story. I'm sure you could.
I've been trying for like 10 years and I just can't commit to actually finish the book. Like, I'm always like, oh yeah, I'm going to restart it. I'm rebooting it. I'm inspired. It's like, those games at the fair where you're like, you test your strength and you see how high it can go. Like the highest I've gone is like 100 pages and then I stop and then I have to start over.
Okay, small adventure. Look at the beginning of the first 2 Witcher books anyway. Andrei Sapkowski, they're all short stories, really. They're all short stories of basically painted in the sense that these are the trials and tribulation of Geralt of Rivia, the White Wolf, and his adventures, doing whatever the fuck a Witcher does. And that's really what introduces us to Geralt, the character. Especially being in, like, the Last Wish and the Sword of Destiny. I believe those are the first 2.
That sounds right.
I think so.
I know the Last Wish is the first one.
But that's how we get introduced to Geralt. I mean, there's moments in those first 2 books that don't end up getting mentioned after the second book.
Yeah.
Like they're memories that are fleeting and they happened, but now, Ciri and all these other events are the main story. But this is how we meet Geralt.
They're part of his past, but they don't really affect his future all that much anymore.
No, exactly. But I mean, fantasy is just, I feel like it's so malleable. You can do whatever you want with it, really. What are you going to do? Oh, there's too many fairies here? Fucking sorry.
Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking, I just had a golden idea here. A subunit of our podcast group. Instead of writing a book, because I can't sit down and write a book, I'll just sit down and each episode is a chapter.
Audio drama.
That's
fucking sick.
Every episode is just one chapter. I just sit here and I tell the story, and then I have some of you fuckers just sitting here and just live reacting to the story, and then you guys can help change and shape the story.
Damn, because you fucked that up. And it's like you needed a period there, and that was a comma. You're like, no, I'm reading it to you. He's like, nope. Bad grammar.
All right, so he's not allowed.
Hey there, guys, real quick. This is the Elder Dadless, co-host of the Dadless podcast. Today, I'm here to tell you a little something about Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast, and let me go ahead and explain. First of all, it is free. There's no upfront cost. It doesn't cost anything. It's a great way to get started. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Literally, if you're on the go, if you're at school, if you are hiding in the restroom while you're at work, if you're stalking your ex-girlfriend, you can literally make a podcast from anywhere. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other streaming platforms. Hey, great way to get it out, right? You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. That means that your Uncle Randy, who was twice removed, can help you make a buck. Or creepy Father John, who you chose to stop talking to for many reasons, can even help you make a buck. It's that simple. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is anchor.fm. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get back to the show.
Now it's time for the final battle. Magic missile! I'm out of mana!
Is there anything that pops into your head that you would recommend to someone?
Off the top of my head, I would recommend Gintama to people. That's my personal favorite anime.
Shout out to my boy Monda.
I actually just restarted it last night for like the third time. And it's long. You're going to be there for like 400 episodes. I know it's a very funny show, but also there are times when it will make you cry. You're going to laugh a lot more than you're going to cry, but...
It is like a... Well, I don't know what the word would be. It's described as like a legacy type anime that I've read before. Like, people have described it as an anime that holds its value.
Yeah. Like, I don't think there's a single weak arc, honestly, or like story, whatever you want to call them.
Anything in addition to that?
Not off the top of my head.
Do you have a quick recommendation list?
I'm actually trying to find something right now. I have like 8 Audible credits. So I'm thinking I'm going to pick up Ranger's Apprentice, which seem like pretty good stories. I've read like 5 of the books, and there's like 12 books. There's nothing too crazy, nothing like a 800-page adventure or anything like that. So they're good little stories to kind of take off in chunks, and the structure is actually pretty interesting. It's kind of like anime arcs, but like 2 books make like one whole story. So like they're each their own book, but it takes like 2 books to fully wrap up what's going on with this storyline. So it's actually a pretty cool way to kind of structure it, and I like it. I got to book 7, so I'm gonna try and finish it off, because now there's a sequel series as well, so that's probably gonna be my next one there.
And then are you watching anything right now?
Watching
or continuing a watch?
Just trying to get through that Naruto run, so
Believe it.
Still working on that one.
I'm trying to
I'm
trying to fucking... It's like 132 episodes, I think, of Hunter x Hunter, and I'm like in the 80s right now.
It's like you mentioned with Hunter x Hunter, like you already know the story and how it ends, but now you're picking up all the details. And I told my wife, I was like, well, I already know how it ends, so I feel like that's why I'm not getting as sucked into like finishing it like right away, because like I already know this happens. I already know like they get this and they do that. She's like, but do they? And I'm like, damn it! All right, I'll start watching right now.
But I will say, because it's Shippuden, no?
Yeah.
I will say, being that was one of those shows that we followed so closely to where we were going like above and beyond to try to find like real early links to like new chapters as they dropped in the episodes. Shippuden really fell flat in its delivery in comparison to Naruto, and I mean, call me biased or call me just spoiled by the initial story and what we were given. Shippuden really, like, it was lackluster, to say the least.
I feel like it drags sometimes. Like it'll take something that could probably be done in like 2-3 episodes and turn it into like 10. So
well, that's why it's like the meat of the story really is drowned in filler sauce. And to my understanding, that's because the author was just kind of like not into it anymore. Which is a fucking shame, really. Because it's like, why? I mean, you have something and you invest like so much time and energy doing it, and it's like, why just fall flat, But
we're looking at you, Dan and Dave, from game runners or game showrunners of Game of Thrones. You could have handed it off. Fuck you for season 8.
That's true. It could have done so much more. But I heard they want to try to re-up it.
Like if they do, that'd be fantastic. But I fucking hate those guys for giving me something fantastic and then, we got new money for a Star Wars deal, so we're gonna just fucking shit the bed on this last season. Our Star Wars shit got canceled because no one wants anything to do with us now. Fuck you guys.
It's like, Mom went and bought Fruit Loops. There's shit in it. Fuck. The milk is spoiled.
To the cast, if any of you listen, you guys did a phenomenal job. You did the best with what you work with. I don't mean to insult your body of work, but the writers kind of let everyone down on that one.
Just to tag on that, Mr. Harrington, why the fuck did you sign up for a role in the Marvel Universe? You don't belong there. You should have been, even then you should have said, I want to be someone else. You should have been someone else. I'm not, no spoilers, but who the fuck? Come on.
I don't want it.
My watch is ended.
This has been a very cool, quick episode. No, it's a solid episode. But really, this was the introduction to our boy Danny, because we've talked about him a lot. And this is actually like a really well done fucking episode. Good job to you. And he was like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm gonna cast magic talking a microphone.
He rolled a d20.
He rolled the d20 big time.
I appreciate the compliments.
No, you did real good. You didn't do a lot of that, what I just did. Thank you guys so much. We are the Dallas Podcast. This is the Dallas Podcast. I am the Elder.
Jose the Dad.
Daddy Dungeon Master.
Yes.
Daddy Dungeon Master.
You know where to find us. Catch us on Anchor. We have social media. Check us out. But for real, hit up Anchor, because that's where we're getting hit up the most. And to my boys in Germany, if I knew how to speak German, I would say something to you like Volkswagen or something. But
That's just like the first two lines of the German national anthem. Don't ask why I know that.
Hey, yo, you guys in Germany, the 5% of you that are listening, thank you guys so much. They're like, you guys are so crazy. It's so wacky. Again, this is the Dallas Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will hopefully talk to you guys soon.